Remote viewing, the modern mental martial art, a yoga for the mind. You are about to learn from the masters of the craft, the history, the art, the science, and the secrets of remote viewing through time and space. I met Hal Puthoff back in the early 70s. He had a national reputation as a physicist working in laser and laser optics, who got interested in remote viewing, and who, along with Russell Targ, were the founding scientists of that laboratory.
Now, the way the program got started, I had been at Stanford and working on lasers, quantum electronics. I had just completed a textbook with a co-author there and on lasers and quantum electronics. And as is always the case, there's nothing like writing a book to realize there's a lot of stuff you don't know. And one of the things I realized I didn't know was whether quantum physics could ever apply to human consciousness, for example. And so I proposed a very modest program and circulated around a proposal to begin to explore quantum aspects of human processing. And a copy of that proposal ended up on a desk in New York. Somebody looked at it. And it turned out that Ingo Swann, who you'll hear more about in this conference and who will be presenting in this conference, happened to see a copy of my proposal. And so he wrote me a letter, and he said, look, if you're interested in quantum physics and consciousness, you shouldn't be working with algae, which is what my proposal had to do with, because they can't tell you anything. You should be working with someone like me. And after a couple of weeks, the CIA landed on my doorstep and said, have we been looking for you? And I said, well, what did I do? He said, well, you did this experiment. And our problem is that we have data indicating that the Soviets, that's what we called them at the time, the Soviets, are spending millions of dollars a year on this stuff. They've got some of the best institutes and the best PhDs working on it. And nobody in America even believes there is such a thing. So we don't know how to evaluate this. Do you think you could have him come out and sort of demonstrate this to us? We'd like to really see if this really, there's something to it. We couldn't care less about the psychokinesis, but we're really interested in this, what we now call remote viewing aspect, the fact that he could see inside here.
The remote viewing that I'm interested in talking about is our ability to expand our awareness to describe and experience what's happening in a distant place or a distant time. We don't know a lot about psychic abilities. One of the things we know is it is no harder to see something in the far distance than right next to you. Another thing we know, which is actually more interesting than that, it is no harder to describe a target object or an event that's going to occur tomorrow than to describe one that has already occurred today and is hidden from you. We would call such a phenomena a non-local ability, a non-local phenomena. Now, the idea of non-locality is not a metaphysical principle. This comes to us from the most interesting research currently being done in modern physics. Modern physics is interested in describing experiments that occur in the world. The idea of non-locality, as it's described in modern physics, says that many things that appear to be physically separated by time and space are actually connected to one another.
And I also want to acknowledge the people in remote viewing who has kept it alive for as long as it has been, and it's a growing intellectual factor in the world anyway, because there was a time in the late 80s when remote viewing was doomed to disappear because most of the work was classified and nobody was picking up on it anywhere, and I completely thought that it was going to vanish because of that kind of thing. The ARE and the remote viewing and other spiritual psychic organizations around the world fly directly in the face of the great social commitment to keeping humans uninformed. about their psychic nature. But you know, we're trapped in our past. We're trapped in our past. We look to the past to figure out what to do in the present. We look for precedents in the past. We look for things that worked and things that didn't work, things that controlled the population the best and the things that didn't, and so forth and so on. We're also trapped in our language. I think if the society was 60% telepathic, that you wouldn't have to make decisions, because everybody would be in accord on the same page from the beginning of the book.
I want to talk about archaeology because this is an area of remote viewing for which there is very meticulous objective evaluation. In fact, what you're looking at there is actually a remote viewing. That's the drawing, and that's the target. That's pretty good. Now, there are a couple things I want to point out quickly because you've been hearing about them, and that is, notice that the roof has been completed there, whereas in the target it hasn't. That's a real classic case of analytical overlay. But it also may be, as you saw with the Pat Price remote viewing, it may be the building at another time, which raises the question, when people do this, do they go to the target photograph, or do they go to the site, or do they go to some collective database where the information about this target is stored? And the validating question for that is, can some aspect of consciousness obtain sense impressions from a distant locale, the unknown past, or from the future, via an anomalous information channel that can be objectively validated? I mean, that, after all, is what this is about.